a lot of people plan for their retirement, but they don't plan for their life in retirement. And that's something that I've seen consistently.
All thoughts and opinions shared in this recording belong to the participants. This podcast is meant to inform and educate and should not be seen as solicitation or endorsement for business. The advisors discuss some of our firm's investment processes. These are just a few of the many possible approaches to investing. Individual results may vary depending on your goals, risk tolerance, market conditions, and other personal factors. Please consult a qualified financial professional before implementing any investment strategy.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Market Moment. I'm Lee Mackey. This morning, sitting alongside John Martfeld.
Morning.
And Eli Freeman.
As always, excited to be here.
Yeah, I've taken a few weeks off. Out of town for a couple weeks, and then this crud that attacked my household over the last couple weeks. But filling in today, or back in the saddle today. Feels good to be back with you guys on the podcast.
Yes, glad to have you back, Lee.
No news over the past month?
No.
Nothing going on?
Pretty quiet.
Well, we've got a good topic today. Eli brought a good topic to the table, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But we're in the middle of June. We are in the dog days of summer. It's about to heat
July.
up.
You've been gone a month, but it's July.
What did I say?
You said June.
Did I really?
Yep.
We are in the dog days of summer. It is the middle of July. I did say June. And it's about to get hot.
Yes.
I mean, I looked at the forecast this morning for the next couple weeks. It is about to get toasty.
Bring on the heat.
Bring on the heat.
And yesterday, my lawnmower decided to quit on me. I need to get it fixed quickly. I replaced spark plugs. It's not spark plugs.
It's not. Process of elimination.
We're going down the list.
Well,
there's not much else to it.
This is, kind of the lull, the summer. Vacations are going on. But today started earnings season for Q2.
Mm-hmm.
Reporting financials always report first.
Yep. Inflation just came out.
The new CPI information came out. So let's touch on those just real quickly. What do you think earnings look like for Q2? Financials have started, and so far the first few that have reported better than expected. So your thoughts as we go through a pretty critical 3-week period here in the summer. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think the GDP numbers that were negative in quarter one, I know that's a little bit off the earnings stuff, but the GDP numbers, that was a lot of intake from the tariff scare. A lot of things were brought in excess to avoid the tariffs and so on. I think that's going to cool off, and I think we're actually going to have and I am changing my tune on that. I think we're going to have a very positive GDP number for second quarter.
Do you think GDP for one gets revised upwards?
I'm not sure about that, because I do think there's a lot of that. They overbuying of stuff to avoid tariffs was real. It was a real deal, and I don't know if there's going to be much. I don't know that, but I do think.
And the reason that would decrease GDP is because if we import too much, it decreases our GDP.
That's correct.
So if someone overbuys from importing too much, it decreases our GDP.
And
levels.
to that point, there's still a lot of that going on. I saw a report a couple of days ago where the Port of Los Angeles is packed with everybody trying to bring in goods, before or ahead of, the tariffs.
And I think that affected, the GDP numbers, which spooked a lot of people and thinking that we're heading towards the dreaded recession. So maybe we avoid it. That's number one. Number two, I think the market is always determined by earnings. The stocks up and down, it doesn't always work that way. It's about forward earnings. The forward forecast a lot of times will create the pressure or the up of the market, but the earnings season is very important. And so I kind of am optimistic that we're going to have another decent quarter of earnings. And I also think the GDP numbers will be decent. And we've had good CPI numbers have been decent. I think the Fed fight with Trump is going to be very, I don't want to use the word amusing, because that seems like we're not taking it serious, but it's going to be amusing. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of things working right now, but I'm not in fear of there being a big drastic problem with earnings, or anything like that.
Your thoughts?
I've been pleasantly surprised as companies have released their expected earnings. Mm-hmm. So as companies put out their expected earnings since the tariffs were introduced and then pulled back, earnings expectations have come up across the board. It's not every company increasing their earnings expectations, but a good amount have continued to. And that is, to what John is saying, that's been pleasantly surprising to me to watch companies try to navigate the new political landscape and are still expecting to make more money than they have in past quarters.
And I think there was a little bit of an over-dramatization.
Wow.
Of the
That was a lot.
That's like a word with like 8 syllables.
we'll see if Zoe can make that sound correct.
Yeah, if this is closed captioned, I have no clue what you'll do on that one.
Asterisks.
There was a over-dramatic response to the tariffs in the first place. And it's not as dire. I know we hear these big numbers, like, or it's going to be 50%, 37%, whatever, 28%, whatever. But it's on a few products, not on everything. It doesn't affect everything as much as we thought, and deals have been done. And so I think that stuff really messed with the market's movement from first quarter to second quarter.
Sure.
And we might be seeing us more smooth on that. And then you look at the fact that we're maybe going to have, the one war, Iran-Israel, looks like it's cooled a little bit. Now you have the heating up in Russia, Ukraine, and there's always something. But anyway,
it will be interesting. The markets, a couple of the indices are at all-time highs. So it'll be interesting to see if earnings can accelerate to kind of bring, that back into play. Second topic, CPI.
Yeah.
Inflation data came out this morning. Eli, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think everyone expected what we saw.
Yeah.
An increased inflation. And as tariffs continue to be put in place and are put in place, it would be very difficult for us to see anything other than rising inflation. As you raise prices on imports and goods in a global economy,
sure,
you're going to raise inflation for at least a short period of time until companies are able to bring them to America. Just speaking with Walmart employees with what they're willing or able to share, you can hear kind of we're trying to figure out how to keep costs low. We're trying to figure out how to keep costs low, but that's them trying to figure out how to keep costs low.
They're not saying they are. They're attempting to.
Yes. Yeah. And it's with expected rising prices, we're going to see inflation, and something around that 3% is probably where we're going to be sitting for a period of time, and unemployment rates are still low.
Yeah.
So Federal Chair Jerome Powell doesn't have a lot of pressure on his shoulders to say we need to cut rates. We need to be more restrictive. So
I'm about as dovish as anybody probably here, maybe at the office, and I would say that Powell is right where he needs to be. He is taking it on a daily basis from the White House, but
as expected.
Yeah, but there's no real need to lower rates right now. None, zero. And you could probably make the argument that there's, not to raise, but he needs to keep that powder there, because there will be a time in the future that we do need to raise rates, or that we do need to lower rates, and you don't want to have spent it all at a time just to appease somebody.
And the reason that someone would need to lower rates is to spur the economy. So
correct.
If rates are held high, then it's hard for businesses to grow, hard for individuals to get loans, financing. All financing and borrowing costs are increased with rates staying high. If the economy starts to get shaky, it's nice for him to have that lever to pull to decrease rates, decrease borrowing costs, and spur the economy forward.
And right now, we've traveled a bit over the month of June and traveling again next week. And guys, I'm telling you, people are moving around. People are spending money. In all facets of society, hotels, airports are packed.
Yeah.
The only place that has seen a material change, at least in the last few months, is the real estate market has turned soft.
It's
much softer.
Which is a no-brainer, right? Interest rates are high. I saw yesterday, I think 6.85 was the average. 30-year yesterday. And you have low or there's still inventory, but there's not people that have the 3% loans aren't selling their homes.
I think if you're moving now, you're moving because
you're forced to.
You need to.
Yeah.
Job change, whatever.
Yeah.
Moving just to get a little bit bigger house, it's just not happening.
Which is that was the big boom for like so many years, right? You could
Yeah.
always continue to upgrade because rates kept going down and so on.
And you can buy and sell quickly because
Right,
housing was rising.
Here's
fast.
we're talking about the Fed. So I actually think, now this is just my opinion, I think Powell has let politics cloud his judgment. And I'm not saying he's doing the wrong thing. I'm saying this fight between those two is kind of like comical, and it's just the truth. What Powell said early on, years ago, when Biden was president, was that he would continue to raise rates until we hit that magical 2% number. We never hit it. My point is, like, he could actually have an argument to raise rates, like you just said. So I don't think he's going to do that. I mean, I do think that would not be wise. I think there's a lot more things to this. But staying put is probably going to happen for a little while. But I do think we're going to get a rate cut at some point. Here's my biggest concern of the next 6 months, but it's not massive concern. We are flying through with market highs and all that stuff. We hit another NASDAQ one yesterday, I think. That sounds great, but I still think there's, the markets still have things that could hurt them. The one thing I think in October I'm looking forward to is the Congress getting together, and that's when they do the budget talks for 2026. And I'm going to be very disappointed if we don't have budget cuts. Like as an American, I'm going to be very disappointed. But I do think mass budget cuts will create fear in the market because it'll be from somewhere.
Sure.
Right. And budget cuts are never easy to do, but somebody has to be the adult in the room and eventually start spending, cutting. My house, it's usually my wife that tells me to stop spending. But at some point we have to stop spending money. And with that massive national debt that we keep rising at these higher rates will eventually be a big problem. We don't talk about it because there's so many other things to talk about, like the Fed, like the Iran-Israel thing, like the inflation, like the tariffs, on and on and on. But the reality is October 1 is going to be a very interesting time frame for the future of the markets in 2026.
Yeah.
Hope they get something done.
We got to get our house in order, don't we? Eli, you brought up a great topic, and we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about this. We see a lot of retirees in our office. We see a lot of clients that are planning to retire. And so what we want to talk about today is post-retirement. What are things, issues that retirees may regret looking back?
Yeah. Financially and or non-financially.
Yeah. Yeah. So why don't you kick that topic off? What do you see in your conversations with people that are in retirement? Are some of the things that they regret, or that's a pretty strong word, but things they wish they had done differently?
The first one that comes to mind is not financial at all. The first one that comes to mind is they didn't prioritize their health. And when you speak with clients who are in their 80s and they haven't prioritized their health, well, they say, we visit you and we visit our doctor, and the doctor, we see a lot more than we see you. And not prioritizing your health leads to a lot of things that you aren't able to take advantage of what you've planned years and years for. And prioritizing health, I know it's funny to talk on a financial podcast about it, but if you don't prioritize your health and you over prioritize working and saving, by the time that you can use the working and saving for something,
You're not able to.
You're not able to.
Yeah.
So the first one that comes to my mind is prioritizing health.
Okay. Another one.
John?
Oh, I think people are. A lot of times, I had a young couple in my office yesterday. They're in their 20s, literally in their 20s, and they're just rocking it out. Right? They're making good money. They're fully max funding their Roth 401ks, which is incredible.
That's incredible.
And they're doing all the right things. And I did their plan, looked out forward. They're going to just be magnificent, except they don't know how to spend because they're saving everything, right? So one thing is, like, there's a fine balance. And I think I have some people that have so much money when they pass away, they never knew how to spend it. And it goes down to grandchildren, children who know how to spend it, and it's gone, poof. So I think one of the things I see a lot of is like that. Number one, clients wish they had saved more when they could have when they were younger. That's number one. But then I have some clients that have saved so much and they don't know how to spend, and they when they get in their 80s, 90s, they can't travel anymore. They wish they would have spent it more on stuff that they could have enjoyed or given it to their family when they could have used it more. Does that make sense? Like, they're going to leave a lot of money behind, but their kids are now in their 60s and they don't need the money.
The two I see that pop to mind the quickest are something similar to what you just said was there wasn't balance. They were afraid to spend. And then the second one was they didn't pay off all their debt. Going into retirement with some form of debt, and oftentimes by that time it's a house payment. But a lot of what I see from a regret or wish we had done something different is less financial I mean, less about Social Security and when to take it or not.
Yeah.
It's more about, I wish I would have spent more, traveled more.
And it goes back to his point, when you're healthy.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
And the way that you might be able to check yourself on that, if you are retired, if you're pre-retiree, this could apply to you. But if you are retired and you look at what you're taking out of your portfolio to meet your goals and your living needs, and it's a very small number, 1-2% of your portfolio, well, you have more wiggle room, likely, in my opinion, to take larger distributions. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, why not take some of those while you're healthy and able? Because you could just be misaligning some of your goals and your priorities with the need to feel like you're saving, because that's what you were taught and that's what you learned.
And we hear these words so often, I'm afraid I might need it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm afraid I might need it.
The fear.
And a lot of our clients, many of our clients, when we're projecting forward, we do the planning that we do with most of our clients. We show that they'll have X amount at 70. Yeah. That is a higher amount at 75. It's oftentimes a higher amount at 80. Yeah. But these people who have grown up, oftentimes, coming out of the Great Depression and so forth, they can't comprehend this freedom to spend. Mm-hmm.
It's like my mom. I'm going to pick on my mom. They grew up with her 11 brothers and sisters. Okay. And my dad had 6 brothers and sisters, and everything was tight. Everything was hard. Right. So my mom keeps yogurts that are 2 years old. I'm like, Mom, that's going to kill you, but I mean, they can't let things go. They can't, and this kind of goes back to just the spending that you're so worried about the bad days coming, which we haven't had in a long time in this country, that you end up living in fear rather than living, free. The other thing I'd say, when you're building a retirement, if you're before retirement and you're building your retirement and you do the proper planning and that you're getting in $10,000 a month in income after tax, and all the money you're putting aside for your retirement says that you're going to do great and you're going to be able to retire at the age you want and live on the way you want. And let's say there's $2,000 or $3,000 left over, you can spend that. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? You can spend that. If you got everything else in order and you know what you're doing, you can take a vacation of a little bit more extravagant than you might have wanted to before. That's 2 words I've said big: extravagant and dramatization. Yeah. So I'm getting much bigger vocabulary, but that you can take those bigger trips and you can do more things because you've got everything solved. Mm-hmm. Right. And a lot of people want to take that money, and that's the exact same thing the young couple had yesterday. They're putting it away. They want to save it. For what? Right. I mean, it's great to build up more and more, but at some point you got to use it. You got to spend it.
You want to be financially responsible, but you don't want to be a financial miser. You don't want to save so much that the rest of you don't want to save so much that you don't change the oil in your car.
Yeah.
And I've seen that sometimes.
I very rarely hear, and a lot of my clients are in retirement right now, and I don't think I've heard any of them say, I wish I had more.
Right. I have some
I don't think I've had a retired client say, I wish I had more money.
You know what I noticed with the retirees and the older I get, I'm not quite as old as Lee, but I'm a few years older than Eli. But, the older I get, the less things matter that we think matter. And the older you get, I have 70-year-old clients, 80-year-old clients, and they eat, you're eating less. You don't have that robust appetite all the time to go out and get a, $80 T-bone steak or whatever. So you don't have, the expenses go down naturally, even if you don't expect it. When you go out and travel, you don't travel as much because you don't want to. You want to sit on your couch and watch the news, watch TV, watch sports, whatever. It's a little bit different animal. And I think as younger people that we're still going to be wanting to do as much as we do now when we're 80, and that's not typically the case. One thing I'd say, but two types of clients I've seen in my life: the ones that spend everything they have, and at 75 they run out of money. And I have some that don't spend a dime, and at 75 they have more money than they'll ever spend in the rest of their life. And you know who's more happy most of the time? It's the one that has no money at 75 because they've lived life. They've taken care of their grandchildren and their children. They've traveled. They've done all these great things. Now, granted, they have to learn how to live on a lot less at 75. But my point is there's a fine line. It'd be great if you could get to 75 and have enough to get you to 95, but still have lived those great lives. But I've seen both extremes of that.
What do you find is a financial regret? A big one that you hear.
A financial regret? The one that I hear most often and most consistently is I wish I would have started sooner.
Yeah.
That's what I wish I would have started working with someone sooner. So people waiting for long and extended periods of time before they start investing or start saving. And that's why you'll hear me every now and then talk. I'm really passionate about financial literacy for schools. I think everyone in high school should learn about financial literacy. Everyone should understand what compound interest is and how saving works, so that regret that I hear most consistently is at least remedied, or at least you can't just say, I was never taught it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And older folks like my age and older were not taught that in schools.
I was.
Right.
So
And
I was
younger-
fortunate to go to a high school that taught the Dave Ramsey program.
Right, which is awesome.
Yeah. And so by the time that I got to school, I was already thinking about student loans and what that would impact.
The impact, yeah.
And then after I graduated school, I was thinking about, okay, where do I need to find room to start investing and saving? Because I know that I have the most powerful asset, which is time. And I only learned that because I learned that, right? And if I wasn't taught it, I don't know what it would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
like that.
That's interesting.
There's misconceptions because, when you're growing up in our era, you had to get credit to get credit. In other words, if you did, I lived in Germany for 8 years. I came back to the United States in 1997, and I had no credit. I had no debt, nothing, right? So I come back to the United States. I try to get a car, and I had no credit. And they said, well, we have to give you this high interest rate because you don't have a credit score. So I had to build a credit score, so which leads you to believe you have to get credit cards, you have to get in debt, you have to do all these things to get credit. And I think that's a misconception as well.
Or as Dave Ramsey would call it, the debt score.
Yeah.
He doesn't call it
Exactly,
credit
the debt score. And I'm teaching my kids a completely different way to do it. Mooch off your parents as long as you can.
Well,
and they have learned that lesson very well.
but my parents, we'll pick on mine for a second, but they would say that, to your point of, I wish I'd started sooner or doing something, they would probably say, we were raising 4 kids and, our income wouldn't allow us to do something until they were probably in their 40s, to begin. So,
and I think that's a lot of truth to that too.
Yeah.
And there's one more that I want to just briefly talk about.
Please.
I know we're coming short on
No,
time.
you're good.
But one of them that I really like is that a lot of people plan for their retirement, but they don't plan for their life in retirement. And that's something that I've seen consistently, where you'll have someone retire, and for the first year, 2 years, they lack that purpose of life because they don't have the same relationships day in and day out that they're speaking with and conversing with. They don't have a reason to get up. I've had clients tell me they check their email just naturally. Not that anyone's work emailing them anymore, but they need to. They feel the need to.
Right.
And so planning for their life after work is just as important, if not more important, than planning financially, fiscally responsibly for your retirement.
I understand that, but I'm telling you what, as soon as I retire, I'm not thinking of you guys ever again.
Well, you don't need to think of us.
But
I'm kidding.
I am going to confirm what Eli said. All of y'all know, Susan retired a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And the transition was hard.
Oh, yeah.
It was a difficult transition.
Susan is Lee's wife.
Yes. She is consulting part-time now, but it was a difficult transition. She had not thought ahead. But one of her mentors mentioned to her, when you're thinking about retirement, ask yourself these 3 questions. Do you have enough? Let's say, do you have enough? Have you had enough? And do you have enough to do? Mm-hmm. And if you can answer yes to those 3 questions, then maybe
you're set.
it's time. But to your point, there is a big component to retiring. You're right. People are so focused on a number, age. I'm ready to do it.
You need to have activities.
Yes.
You need to have people
Yes.
to be social with. You need to
Yes.
have purpose. And if you lack those,
And the purpose is the big one. I remember her saying at one point, she was in a Bible class at church and they were talking about the purpose of life. And she said at one point, I don't think I have one. And that wasn't this, woe is me, but it was just kind of like she was in between purposes. And at the time, she didn't feel like she had a purpose because she came from, 30 plus years of having the same purpose every day.
Yeah.
To all of a sudden, it's not there.
and the term has been coined Great Depression. So for
how funny.
for people who retire and they lack that purpose, like you speak about,
Lee and
they-
I are a
they-
little bit offended about that. We've got some
That's
grays.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere. But they call it Great Depression.
Yeah.
And that's it. For those people that just lack that purpose, what's the reason of getting up?
Yeah.
Well, you've got to find that. You've got to design it and build it and work towards it. It's not something that just falls in your lap.
I wonder if Steve Martin's had that since he's been like 25. He's had gray hair since he's been 25. Has he had Great Depression?
But
Anyway,
that's
feel bad for him.
This is a great topic, and we could probably spend an entire podcast episode on that. Before we end, it's good to be back. As we like to mention on all of our podcasts, please go to our YouTube channel, like it, subscribe it, tell your friends, family, neighbors about it. We like to have fun, but we also like to put forth some material that people will find interesting and somewhat educational.
And if you want to know if you're saving too much or too little, I have a video on that in the Data Brief series.
Yeah.
So shameless plug.
And speaking of your data brief series, you did one just in the last couple of weeks on the Big Beautiful Bill.
The One Big Beautiful Bill.
The
Yeah.
one-
So if you don't know, Washington just passed it's a pretty massive bill, but it has some changes really across the board for people's taxes. So
Yeah.
if you're working and or retired.
Tired.
We're adding syllables all over the place.
Another word. Another new word.
Retiree read.
If you're a retiree, then you should go check out that video.
And it is very good. But we're going to do a podcast here in the coming weeks where we pick some topics and go over that because it is a massive piece of legislation that really touches just about every American. We're going to try to, this is not going to be about politics. We're not going to talk about the good, the bad. We're just going to kind of lay some things out of how this affects your pocketbook, your taxes, your situation. Until next time, for John and for Eli, we hope you have a great week, a blessed week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
The hosts of the Market Moment podcast are employees of Mach 1 Financial Group, LLC. Mach 1 is a registered investment advisor located in Rogers, Arkansas. A copy of Mach 1's current written disclosure brochure is available through the SEC website and available at disclosures.mach1fg.com.